¿Qué tal amigos? ¿Cómo están? Bienvenidos una vez más al canal. El día de hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial. Tenemos uno de los fundadores, Kenny de Manta. Entonces vamos a estar hablando del proyecto de Manta y Calamari, que es el proyecto de Kusama. Entonces, bueno, hello Kenny, how are you doing today? Thanks for your time. Where are you at right
Hey,
now?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here. Really excited to talk with the Spanish community.
Yes, definitely. We were talking about how involved the Spanish speaking community is in the Polkadot ecosystem and with Manta. So that's really cool. But yeah, we're here to learn a little bit about yourself and what Manta and Calamari are going to bring for the ecosystem. So excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah, excited to get started.
Perfect. So first of all, I wanted to ask you maybe deep dive a little bit about yourself. What's your background and how did you get to find Polkadot and Kusama?
Yeah, so I guess, just to start off with my background, I've been an entrepreneur for a while now. I actually started my first company in the cloud computing space, dabbled in the AI space as well. The way that I found the Polkadot ecosystem was pretty interesting. It was actually back in 2018. And I was doing a little bit of research into interoperability for a class that I was taking over at MIT, specifically a blockchain course. And the professor told me to look into projects like Cosmos and Polkadot when it comes to interoperability. And so that's how I first got exposed to Polkadot. I know that, before that it was, they had done the ICOs back in 2017, 2018. And it was interesting, but I didn't really pay too much attention at that time. But after I did a bunch of research for my own projects, I think that's when it got really exciting. And I really saw the potential for interoperability for layer ones. And now that we're building in the ecosystem, I think that value proposition is tremendous. And we're going to start seeing it more and more as projects start rolling out as parachains.
Yeah, definitely. I think just as DeFi has been a hype, NFTs, metaverses, I think privacy has a pretty good chance of being that, because maybe people don't understand right now, but I think the blockchain will allow everything to be scanned really easily. So privacy is really important, I think, for the future.
It's scary. Yeah, it's scary, right? Because when you think about what blockchain will look like 3 to 5 years from now, right now we're going through certain trends. We've got DeFi, right? And we've got NFTs and metaverses, as you mentioned. And it'll become more and more general 3 to 5 years from now, more and more applications. And, right now, I think privacy on the internet for Web 2 is already a huge concern. We're concerned right now that companies like Facebook or Google have our data. But in the Web3 space, it's literally anyone with an internet connection has your data. They see which applications you've interacted with, how much tokens you hold, which applications that you've stopped interacting with, right? You create these new online profiles, but it's no longer Facebook creating the profiles and monitoring you for advertisement. It's literally anyone with an internet connection creating profiles and doing whatever they want with it. And so I think it's definitely a concern that needs to be addressed early on with Web3.
For sure. And especially with things like Ethereum, right? Ethereum is super easy to scan everything and follow the money pretty much. Bitcoin is a little bit more complex, but still it can be traced back. So definitely I'm a big proponent of privacy. I wanted to ask you, what do you think about these companies like Chainalysis receiving billion-dollar valuations and serving private companies, but also government, right?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think I think we do need organizations like Chainalysis, right? Because I think there's a difference here, and I think it's very important to distinguish this difference because we saw it back when Bitcoin first started, right? Back in the cypherpunk communities and back in the black markets, and that the reputation has certainly changed, but some people still see Bitcoin as used for nefarious purposes, for drug deals or for like bad things. But the reality is that Bitcoin isn't being used for that as much as it is for a lot of other use cases. I think people are starting to see privacy in that sense as well, right? Because people are just they like to simplify and say, oh, well, why do you need to be private on the internet? Because you must be doing something bad if you want privacy. But that's not the case, right? Like privacy is a fundamental human right. People don't want Facebook monitoring them, not because they're doing bad things, but for a lot of other reasons. And so we need to start distinguishing that with privacy as well, because yes, there are bad actors who want to have privacy for the purpose of, well, I guess bad acting, but there are also very good use cases for privacy as well. And so, with organizations like Chainalysis, and this is just me speaking on a very superficial level because I don't know, all the deep intricacies or all the contracts or all the projects that they're doing, but having organizations that can help with, kind of putting a difference between the bad actors in privacy and the rest of the community in privacy, I think that's very important. And that makes our jobs easier as well, because we definitely believe in privacy, but we also want to make sure that our project is like developing something for the betterment of the world, not just throwing out privacy and saying like, oh well, if bad people use it, right? Because it can get tricky there.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be tricky, but even companies, right, can use privacy because they want to keep competitive advantages secret. So maybe that's including in the numbers of transactions and stuff like that. So definitely very useful. Well, I want to ask you, what is Manta? How does it work? How does it provide privacy?
Yeah. So I think, whenever we talk about Manta, we get a lot of comparisons to like, oh, what about Zcash? What about Monero, right? What about all these privacy coins in existence? And so I think the biggest difference here is that we are not a privacy coin. We are a privacy technology. And that's what makes us so unique and powerful in the Polkadot ecosystem because of interoperability. And so what I mean by that is, just a very simple example is if I wanted to send you 10 dot right now, how do I do that with Zcash? I have to go to a centralized exchange. I have to swap dot to Zcash. I have to move the Zcash to my wallet. Then I have to send it to you and you have to reverse the whole process. And, I tried to send you 10 dot, maybe it's worth 12 dot now, or maybe it's worth 8 dot now, right? But with Manta network and Calamari network, right, you're able to directly privatize parachain assets. So I can privatize that 10 dot into 10 private dot and just send it to you directly. Or I can send, 8 private dot to you and 2 private dot to someone else. And so that is the biggest differentiator. And that's what makes us a little bit unique in the sense that we are a privacy technology that lets people privatize parachain assets. We're not a privacy token.
Okay, that's interesting. And how about building more complex things built with privacy, like smart contracts? Can Manta do that?
At this stage, no. We are researching into Turing completeness, which would allow EVM environments in our ecosystem. But right now, the reason it's not a priority is because, the way that we see privacy is that it needs to be a utility. It needs to be available without you having to worry about it. So for example, like right now, we're talking, you just open your laptop and you're connected to the internet. I just turn the faucet on and water comes out, right? Like you don't have to worry about like who your water provider is or who your ISP is and have to think about them all the time. And so with Polkadot, right, like we want to be that utility for privacy in the same manner. And so our goal isn't necessarily to make sure that other projects go into our ecosystem and build directly in our network. Our goal is to make sure that all the other projects in the ecosystem, all the other parachains, can enable privacy for their users without having to have, expert cryptographers to build out the privacy layer. We can provide it as a service, and that can be an underlying middleware for people to be able to just say, okay, I want to privatize this transaction on this parachain. Do they have to care? Do they have to know that it's Manta network? No, they don't.
Okay, interesting. So other parachains can use it as the backend part of the complex contract or system they're building, and they can add the privacy function for whatever they would like to privatize.
Yeah, that's the goal. And so I think that's the really unique part about XCM, the cross-chain communication with different Polkadot parachains, because that allows us to enable this at a layer 1 level, right? It's not like on Ethereum, because on Ethereum it is, you have the Ethereum virtual machine, and then on top of the Ethereum virtual machine, you have all these different applications. And we're seeing it right now where there's scalability issues, right? Especially with proof of work consensus, because the analogy here is that you have one laptop, and this laptop's name is Ethereum. And then you're running, I don't know, Photoshop, and then Adobe Premiere, and then like 12 Google Chrome tablets or tabs. And then you're running, I don't know, Cyberpunk 2077, right? And like when all these applications are going together, the computer slows down. Right. But like Polkadot, it allows for the same level of interoperability. But each application, each parachain is its own laptop. Right. And so now we are connected through like some type of, I don't know, USB or like a modem or something. Right. And so we are able to communicate in a very scalable manner. And I think that's a really unique value proposition of like being able to create that cross-chain compatibility on a layer 1 basis.
For sure. And you mentioned, so Manta is for Polkadot, and you mentioned Calamari. That's for Kusama, right? Can you explain to me a little bit more if there's a difference?
Yeah, so to date, there is no difference between Calamari and Manta. What we are seeing, though, is that projects in the Polkadot ecosystem and projects in the Kusama ecosystem are starting to diverge even today, right? Like, for example, NFTs on Kusama are definitely hot, right? And NFTs are starting off on Polkadot, but we're still waiting for the parachains there. But the idea here is that potentially in the future, the two ecosystems, we believe, have the potential to look very different. And with these different ecosystems, the utility of privacy, how privacy is deployed, which features are prioritized, that could look different as well. And so, we're prepared for that. But currently, with everything just starting now, we do anticipate that at least in the short term, right, within the next like 6 months, everything on the Calamari roadmap is going to be on the Manta roadmap as well.
Excellent. And when do you think we're gonna start seeing like Calamari? When can we start using it?
We have our testnet coming out in just a week. And so there's a few things, between testnet and mainnet launch that we need to do. One is, we need to have as much QA testing as possible, right? So like, this is where the testnet comes out, the community is able to participate, people provide us feedback, and we continue to iterate because we want to make sure that when we launch mainnet, it's a full-fledged product. Two is we need to go through our auditing. Right? We want to make sure that whatever we launch on mainnet is secure. And what's really interesting about, our auditing process is that we're not just looking for, a typical audit, because we need to find people who specialize in cryptography and zero knowledge proofs. And so that takes a little bit more planning to do for the auditing side. And then the third thing that we need to do is what's called a ceremony. So, a zero knowledge proof is like a very broad category of different techniques. And the specific technique that we're using is called Groth 16. And with Groth 16, we need to do what's called a ceremony. And so what that ceremony is, in a nutshell, is, a big event where everyone from the community comes together and everyone can participate. And it's to help us with being able to launch the ZKP portion of our network. And so that ceremony we anticipate might take about a month. just to make sure that everyone in the community can get involved. And so, yeah, 3 steps between testnet and mainnet, right? The lower hanging fruit is the QA testing, which is already going to be happening on testnet. Auditing may take a little bit of time because of the specialization in ZKP, and the ceremony, which we anticipate might take about a month. So, once the testnet launches next week, then we think probably around like the January timeframe, early January, we're going to start with steps 2 and 3. And so we fully anticipate that, I guess, Calamari MariPay will be launched mainnet sometime in Q1 of next year.
Nice. I think next year is going to be exciting with all the Kusama ecosystem and the dot ecosystem starting to take formation, right? So it's going to get really complex really quick.
Exactly.
And what about the tokens, about Calamari, Manta? Since I saw, for example, that if you hold Manta, there's a certain amount of Calamari tokens allocated to the holders. How does that work? Is that,
yes.
Is the network gonna have collators or not?
The network will definitely have collators. We are finalizing the details about the incentives for our collator program. In terms of the Manta token holder to Calamari distribution that you saw. So with Calamari, we decided to do a very community-focused launch, and what that implies is that we don't have team distribution, we don't have investor distribution. It's all going towards the community and the community token holders, and that gives us a lot of flexibility on how we can think about expanding our community. And so out of that entire supply of Calamari tokens, we reserve 20% of it specifically for Manta token holders as lock drop. And so what we're doing there is that anyone who holds Manta token will also get Calamari tokens. And the reason we want to do this is because there's a lot of utility for the Calamari token as well as the Manta token. And so, people who are, for example, participating in Manta on an active basis and participating in governance there, we want to give them an opportunity to allow them to participate on-chain governance for Calamari as well, right? And so by having the tokens, you are able to participate. And because we see Manta and Calamari as so similar, we want to make sure that, the inputs can definitely align. So yeah, that's why we decided to do it that way, and it's pretty cool because it definitely gives people an opportunity to play in both of our ecosystems.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really cool way to interconnect both projects and not let them be completely independent and to get people involved. So definitely really cool. And how about the crowd loan? I saw that you are raising Polkadot for to secure the parachain. So how's that going? What incentives are you guys giving? I've heard something about maybe an NFT or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, we are giving NFTs, but that's not the only reward. So it's very important for us to fight for the first batch of parachains because our philosophy on privacy is that the earlier that you enable it, the more effective it becomes, right? Because every single public transaction is another data point that can be used, in any sort of way possible. And so that's exactly why we're going for the first batch of parachains. And as part of that, I don't know if you followed along with like our community history, but we've been pretty community focused the whole time. Like I think our team is very active in the various Telegram, Discord, Twitter channels, right? I'm the one talking to you on Twitter. And so we take feedback a lot. And so we took feedback for the Calamari auctions, and we took feedback for the Manta auctions. And so when we first started Manta Network, the DOT auctions, our crowd loan rewards were a fixed ratio. And, I spoke to a lot of community members. People wanted better rewards, did a lot of sort of calls privately with different community members who did tons of analysis on all of this. And we revamped our rewards to be an allocation of the entire pool, which is a much more favorable reward for the community. And so right now what we have is 15% of our entire Manta token supply is going towards this crowd loan. And so anyone who participates gets an allocation of that 15%. And so that's the reward. That's just the base reward. And out of that 15%, 12% is split into just pure base rewards. If you contribute, you get an allocation in that 12%. And 3% of that is exclusive to crowd loaners, but also a way that we want to incentivize people to actually try out our products more and more. And so that 3%, we're putting it out as a Manta Pay liquidity event. So once Manta Pay launches, which is our private transaction tool, as long as you go into Manta Pay, well, one, you have to be a crowd loaner first. And then two, just go into Manta Pay, try it out. And once you try it out, you get a proportion of that 3% of rewards as well. And so that equals the full 15%. And yes, we have NFTs too. We're working with an awesome NFT artist because, our mascot is the Mandalorian, right? And so we actually found an amazing artist who does a lot of work in the media space, who's done a lot of work with different movies, TV shows, including Star Wars Clone Wars. Oh. So he's going to be helping us design our Mandalorian NFT assets. So that's going to be really cool.
Oh yeah, that sounds pretty epic. That's are the NFTs, could they have privacy as well?
We've been looking into that. I think one of the things we want to be sure about is whatever sort of services that we're enabling through, Polkadot or Kusama, that the use cases are practical, right? Like we are interested in doing private NFTs, but we're trying to figure out exactly what the use case is there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, definitely lose track maybe of your, you can send it through accounts to like lose track of the last holder. So because that's right true. Now, definitely you can track really easily people through their NFTs, right? Especially their PFPs. You can just follow the money and maybe find something interesting there. But yeah, that would be cool. But this NFT sounds super, super epic. Do you plan to add any functionality or something? Utility?
Yeah, we're going to be thinking about how that works in terms of, potential access, loyalties, etc. But we haven't put out the details about that yet.
Okay. Interesting. And tell us, so you told us that you're putting this 15% for the crowd loaners. I really liked what you said about the people that use it are going to get some incentives. So that's super, super cool. And how can people crowd loan to you? Do you have a specific web page? Can they also do it through the Polkadot.js app, or what's the best way to support Manta?
Yeah, there are many different ways. It can be fully decentralized. We are on Polkadot.js. We also have our own website, which basically connects to Polkadot. And so it's whether you use Polkadot.js or our site, it's the same thing. And so for our site, it's just crowdloan.manta.network. I think one difference between using Polkadot.js versus our official site is that our official site, you can use a referral code. And that referral code gives an extra 5%, which is split between you and the referrer. So each of you get 2.5% extra if you use a referral code, which can only be applied on our site. And so those are the two most like decentralized options, right? We are also working with partners, Parallel, Equilibrium, Bifrost, right? Like a lot of you guys have probably seen all the projects that are working with them, right? Because they are also providing liquidity solutions, right? And so there's an interesting layer of incentive there because, as you know, when you put in your DOT, it gets locked for 96 weeks and you can't do anything about it. But with the liquidity solutions, they provide you a token representation of your DOT, which they call a liquid DOT, and you can trade those as well. And so that's going to create some interesting market dynamics. And then finally, right, if you just want to keep your DOT on an exchange and you don't ever want to move them, you can just contribute directly through exchanges. So we're working with, what is it? Binance, I think, KuCoin, Gate, MXC, et cetera, et cetera. And so, definitely some options to contribute directly from the exchanges as well.
Okay, okay, interesting. And I wanted to ask you a little bit, deep dive a little in tokenomics, because I saw that for every private transaction, the token gets burned. What's the, so is it inflationary, deflationary? What's the token model here?
Yeah, actually, it's not for every transaction. And so what we do on Manta Network, just like any network, is that we collect fees. So every time you use us to privately transact or privately swap, we collect some fees. But the fees don't go back directly to us, right? They just stay within the ecosystem, and any Manta token holder can claim those fees. And in order to claim those fees, they do have to burn Manta token. And so it's a one way, right? So you burn Manta token and you get the fees. And so in that respect, Manta is, and as well as Calamari, it is a deflationary token.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. I know a lot of people like that. And how about partnerships? Can you tell me any interesting partnerships with other parachains or outside maybe of the dot ecosystem that you're working with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really exciting time right now because we're starting to see all these parachains on Kusama start launching, and then parachains on Polkadot going to start launching. And so, I can't name specific names right now, but we've gotten a lot of interest from various projects about XCM integration. So starting that cross-chain communication. And that's really interesting. We've already done, testnet versions of this cross-chain communication with projects like Akala, but now we're like stepping it up and like bringing it to the real thing. So that's really exciting, and I think it's important because it also speaks to like the ethos of the Polkadot and Kusama ecosystems. And what I mean by that is, with cross-chain communication, it's not as simple as, oh, I want to just start integrating Akala tokens into our network, right? Like I have to write, or we have to write code for it, and then Akala has to write code for it too. So Akala needs to want to do it, and we have to need to want to do it, right? And so once we both agree, then we can link up, right? And so that creates a more human aspect to it, because it means that the projects in the Polkadot ecosystem, we want to be collaborative, right? We can't just start taking other people's tokens and then adding it into our own network. There has to be that form of human collaboration. And so I think that shows you exactly how much, Polkadot ecosystem projects work together. And so, we're constantly having a lot of like cross-chain collaborations, community events together, et cetera, because, building that relationship is especially important in Polkadot.
For sure. And is there also governance so the holders can choose and vote on upgrades and stuff like that?
Yes, definitely. So I think the joke for us is that we've already started unofficial governance, but it happens on our Telegram community, right? And because like we're always there and we're always chatting, and we've already made so many changes just based on community feedback there. But we have enabled on-chain governance for Calamari. And we're putting together the documentation to teach people exactly how to use it, and we're fully prepared to start using it to move the project forward. And I think that kind of speaks again to a question you asked earlier about whether Calamari and Manta are different. And so the big unknown here is like the biggest difference is going to be what the communities decide, right? And so the on-chain governance is enabled for Calamari already, and for Manta Network, right, we've got to get the parachain first, but we definitely intend to have the on-chain governance there as well.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. It's a really cool way for getting the community involved, and it's pretty cool. I like the governance model for the substrate based chains. Definitely interesting. How do you see Manta in the next 5 years? Where do you see it?
We see Manta being, I guess, just like a manta ray, right? Like the thing about a manta ray is that it's naturally designed to be camouflaged. So when you look from the top of the water down, its top is dark, and so it camouflages with the dark ocean. And then when you look from the bottom up, the bottom is very light, so it like camouflages with the light. But we're all there, right? So like the most beautiful scenario for Manta is that we exist, we're connected with various parachains, and people are able to privatize assets whenever they want, transfer, swap whenever they want, and no one even knows that we're around.
Excellent. Yeah, you can move silently.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And I heard that maybe the Calamari token transfer were activated today or or something close.
Yeah, so we have finished our runtime upgrade that allows for the token release to start going out, and we intend to go out today. In fact, it'll be a little bit after our interview, so stay tuned for that.
For sure, yeah, that's a good way. So this is gonna go straight up to the YouTube channel. So
nice.
So we're gonna be having some fresh news. So definitely interesting.
Awesome.
Well, definitely, I think it's really insightful how you have explained the networks. I'm really excited to see Calamari in action in the next 2 months, I guess, or so, when everything's activated. But I really like the function of Manta Pay, or how's it called for Calamari?
Mari Pay.
Mari Pay, nice. Did you get a lot of confusion with Squid Games or not?
Not really, no. I know that there was that one Squid Game token scam thing, right? That was crazy. But yeah, our event was exclusive to our community, and so our community they already know what's going on, so there wasn't too much confusion there.
For sure. No, I really like that about the projects in the Kusama ecosystem. They are really close with the community, so definitely it's gonna be interesting. It's a self-curating ecosystem, and the best projects will rise to the top at the end. So
yeah, definitely. That's how it's incentivized, right? Because even right now, yeah, the parachains are first starting, but by the time of the next parachain auctions 2 years later, everyone's going to see who's able to produce and who's not able to produce, and it'll be a self-selection process.
Excellent. Yeah, well, definitely. I appreciate your time. I don't know if you want to share with the audience, where can people find you? Where can they get information? What's the Telegram? We can put it in the description so people can join the community and start voting or giving some opinion about the projects.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to reach me is just on our Telegram community chat. I'm on there like almost 24/7, and even if I'm not responding all the time because I'm a little busy, I'm always reading through all the messages. So yeah, that's definitely the easiest way to reach me.
Excellent. And guys, don't forget to support Manta Network if you want some privacy for your transactions. I think I definitely want some, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I don't know if you want to say anything else to the audience, if you want to share any alpha or anything.
Not really, no. I mean, there's a lot to share, but just let's just wait until next week, and things will start releasing.
Okay, for sure. There's really cool things coming up, so keep it under your radar.
Yeah.
And, thank you so much, Kenny, for coming here today.
Thank you for your time.